Hello, welcome everyone. We are on episode 15.
Yes.
We're getting old. We're in our teen years,
We're
getting sassy to our
getting
parents.
getting rowdy.
Yeah, they just don't understand us though.
Yeah,
It's true.
parents just don't understand.
But we're doing another one-off episode tonight. For those of you who are wanting to tune in and watch us finish the Arkham campaign, we're almost there. We're getting really close. We're on the final chapter. We'll be starting that in a couple of weeks because we've had some schedule conflicts and people having to be important places, doing important things. But we're going to do
Well,
another. Yeah, doing another.
medieval
What's that?
times doesn't count. I was just saying
Exactly.
medieval times doesn't count. I don't think.
Whoa! Wait a minute. I don't think that's.
Shots
I don't
fired.
think she's been back. It was just that one time.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Or
true.
were there
That's
two
true.
times?
All right.
Well, either way,
Yeah.
it was fun.
Well,
One time I went.
Well, that's cool. So yeah, we're gonna have that scheduled. We're gonna have a kind of a one-off mission tonight, sampling a new game that's hot off the presses, or it had been, and then it's gonna be on the presses again, and we'll probably sell a lot. And we'll get started with that in just a second. Before then, I just wanted to do a quick plug for our sponsors. We're part of the Misscliks community. They are a hardworking group of people who are running some Dungeons and Dragons streams and some Let's Plays throughout the week. So be sure and check them out here on Twitch. They've got a schedule if you go to Misscliks, Misscliks, which is,
there you go.
if you're on the site, you already know how it's spelled. So you know where you're at. But tell your friends. There's lots of great streaming going on. And of course, on Saturday nights, you're here with us watching board games because that's what the
Yes.
cool kids do.
Oh, Mr. Lardsey just caught up, so now we can watch live. But we're not even on the main campaign,
Yeah,
so you can watch live anyway because it's a one-off.
exactly. Nice.
No, but this kind of fits because we're going to be done with the campaign soon.
Hmm.
The finale is the next one. And so for phase 2, I guess if you want to call it, we're going to be deciding whether to continue the next cycle of Arkham or maybe start something new, and this is one of the potential candidates, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of a cool idea because again, it fits with our theme of looking at a game for more than just one play to kind of really get in depth with it. And of course, this game has a campaign. It's supposedly a gigantic game. The box itself is enormous. And of course, I'm talking about it hypothetically because I don't yet have a copy. It's completely sold out. But
Yeah, it doesn't come. Well, it doesn't come out until September 13th, I think.
yeah,
So.
yeah, the second printing is now
Yeah.
coming out. The first sold out in no time, and just as a little FYI, the second printing went on Kickstarter. So this isn't even the first printing of the game. This is the second printing of the game. He just asked for a meager $100,000 to print the second printing, and it was so popular that people donated almost $4 million.
Dang.
It's crazy.
So yeah,
Third, fourth, fifth printing.
exactly.
Yeah.
So he's doing fine for himself there. He's got stuff going on.
That's
Nice.
like 40 printings.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully there'll be. There was a little bit of delay. I'd heard that there was going to be copies at Gen Con, but I didn't hear anything, and I've been checking different sites. Haven't seen it pop up yet. I've got reservations at my local flag store. I'm waiting to pounce. I will be buying this. I'm just waiting.
Yeah, it's like $150 too.
Yeah, it's a big box, big game.
It's huge.
Everybody talks about how much stuff there is in it, and we're just kind of looking at just this table right here, which I'll be switching to so you guys can see. This table right here is just a small percentage. There's also elements of this game that are, besides having a campaign, um, unlike a lot of campaigns out there, you don't play the same character. There's supposedly a retirement system built in where eventually you'll get rid of your character and get a new one. So the campaign is so big that you'll actually be playing multiple characters. It's also supposedly partially a legacy system, so there'll be changes that you'll be making by putting stickers on things, permanently changing the game as you're playing along. So I'm interested to see how that all works out and what happens when you're done. If you get done, can you replay it? That kind of thing. So it should be really interesting.
Crazy. All right.
Yeah. So I guess what we're going to be getting into tonight, we're going to kind of take our time because I know for a lot of you this might be a new game, and it is a pretty complicated game at first. It's easy to see it's very different than other typical dungeon runner games because there's no dice. That's one big thing. It's almost all card based, and it's not even randomly card based because you have a hand of cards from the beginning of the game to the end, same hand, and it's just you try to work with what you have. So the only randomness is a small deck of cards that you will draw that modify attacks and things like that, but you don't really even miss. You might just, well, there is a miss, but you don't really normally miss. But you might have damage reduced or increased depending on the whims of fate. So that's kind of your RNG deck down here below your character. So everybody starts off with a character they pick at the beginning of the campaign. If you'll notice, I'm showing up an example of the character I'll be playing, Scoundrel. It looks really complicated, but really the text in the middle is nothing but a reference card for how the round proceeds. The only thing that's really important is that the left side of your card will be where you'll place discards. The top is where you place active cards, and then to the right you'll place cards that you've lost for the rest of the scenario. And then there's a track on the right that's blue for tracking XP that you'll get throughout the game, and then a red track at the bottom where you keep track of your hit points. So the character card is not really too complicated. You have a player piece and some tokens that you'll use for various cards, and of course your random modifier deck that you'll use for attacking. Other than that, the only complicated thing you have is in your hand you will have a set of cards. Your character sheet tells you how many cards you have in your hand. So for example, the Scoundrel, she will have 9, and I do have 9 starting cards in my hand. So everyone has a level 1.
It's in the upper right.
Right. Yeah. And everyone has a set of cards that all say level 1 at the top in the little crown symbol. And then they have various abilities. There's a top half and a bottom half to the card, and then a number in the middle. And this is pretty much your abilities that you're going to use throughout the game. Once you lose all of your cards, if they're discarded, you have a way of resting and getting them back in your hand. But there is a really strong timekeeping element to this game that eventually your cards will all be in the lost pile, and really once they're lost, they cannot be retrieved again. So sometimes when you play a card...
Well, I think there is a way, but it's really hard. I didn't get to that part, but I don't know. It's buried. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's like blood sacrifice rituals or something. Yeah. I don't know.
Some characters have special abilities also that allow them to get cards back from the lost pile, but it's almost like
that's probably it.
Yeah, permanently dead pile. If they're discarded, you just need sort of to rest, but the time is always against you, and I'm interested to see how tactical you have to get in trying to make sure that you still have enough abilities left to complete your mission, because that's kind of a whole new thing.
And the interesting thing is, I think basically you either do actions or you rest an entire turn, and you only rest when you absolutely have to because you're out of cards, because you don't do anything that whole turn.
Right.
So the interesting thing is, yes, you rest and get your discarded cards back, but to do a rest, you do have to place one of your discards at a permanent loss.
Right.
So every time you rest, it's ticking down your hand down.
Right.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, so the Scoundrel could conceivably discard all of her cards playing actions and then get all of her cards back by taking a rest, except she will have to discard one card into her lost pile permanently. So it's almost like if you were just playing the basic actions, it seems as though you would get to play 9 rounds, right? 9, and you'd get rid of one card every time, and then eventually you'd be out. But there's actually actions that are super powerful that you can play that also take your cards out quicker. So it's almost like it's a really cool way of keeping track of like a fatigue or an endurance kind of thing, where more powerful actions are great, but if you use them, you're in danger of losing your card really early on in the game, and without the chance of recycling it. So it gets really interesting deciding when is the best time to play these powerful abilities. Much like a real, Dungeons and Dragons game. When am I going to use my once per day or so forth? But
Right.
the nice thing about the character card is it also tells you as you're playing where to set your max HP at the beginning of each scenario. So as you level up, of course, there's experience, and you'll level up. And in between missions, you can go to town and buy items and upgrade your character. And then there's even apparently missions and things that take place in between as you're traveling to the dungeon, and missions and events that take place while you're in town. So it's just chock full of content. The HP tracker tells you where your max HP should be based on your level, and it looks like level 9 is maybe the max level. Maybe you can go to level 10, but it's not. You can't go higher than that for HP. So I'm trying to think if there's anything outside of the. We will be playing as we go along and setting up here in just a second. Is there anything outside the game that's needs to be mentioned? I was trying to think if there's anything else.
None of us have played this. I mean, Gabe and I tried it once, and it went pretty fast. So, just so people know, these next 2 shows, I think we're going to plan to play this. Mm-hmm. We're going to be moving nice and slow, so you guys can really see, and also because we're going to be learning it as we go. So we're going to take our time, and that way, if people are watching, want to maybe check it out and buy it for themselves, hopefully they'll get a good idea. But it's also because we're not very familiar with it either. So bear with us. We'll get there.
Yeah, and the really cool thing is, even though it's not available now, Isaac Childress, the designer, has been really nice and created a Kickstarter campaign that is available here on Tabletop Simulator. And we're in the middle of the first scenario, and then each scenario has its own setup room. So you can play a whole, I think it's like a 10-mission campaign, complete with leveling up and traveling to town. Without even, just to test the game out and see if you like it, which obviously it did. It's a great marketing method because I'm going to buy this game as soon as it comes out. So,
yeah.
So just to kind of tell you about the other elements on the board really quickly before we start setting up, there is the main map. Sometimes, in this case, our scenario only takes place in one room. It's a tavern. You'll probably see it looks pretty much like any other dungeon delving game. You've got enemies here. There's bandit guards, Inox, which I guess are kind of lizard horn people, and then various terrain icons and pieces that you'll put on the board. It's really simple though. The terrain that is surrounded by green is just an obstacle. You cannot move through them unless you're flying or jumping, and those are pretty much the only terrains we have to worry about. Here on the left side of the board is the round tracker, which we don't have to worry too much about tracking rounds this scenario. But below that is the element infusion board. So as certain abilities are played, they cause certain elements of the earth, water, ice, air, light, and dark. Right? That's the last 2. It's fire, ice, wind, earth, or life. Light and dark. And so if you play a certain ability and it has this symbol on the card, you will infuse the battlefield with that element, and so that means you move the token to strong, and it will slowly fade away. But what's really cool is this is how combos happen in the game. If you infuse it with a certain element and someone else can burn that element and use it for extra damage, that's how you set up really cool magic in the game.
But you can't create an element and then consume it on the same turn.
Right. Yeah.
For you. So another friend could use your conjured element, but you can't, like, I summon fire, I use fire.
Yes, yeah. So it's cool because it's incentivized to kind of infuse elements and then let someone else use them, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Over here on the right, obviously we have various tokens, coins, things like that, and of course there's different status tokens. Okay. And then you've got enemy cards. They're kind of unique because in real life they're little like they almost look like floppy disk sleeves. You put the monsters in them based on the level.
They do look like that.
Yeah. You put them in based on the level, so that whatever's facing out is based on will tell you the level of the creatures, and that should be the level that matches most of the average of the players. I think is how.
What are floppy disks?
Exactly.
No, I know. They're the things that control our nuclear weapons.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Rest easy.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got little spaces on the sleeve for putting the hit points of each enemy that's out there. So an enemy, like, for example, the bandit archer will match, is labeled 1, and so that matches the 1 space. So you can keep track of hit points pretty easily. And then each monster also has their own AI, which is nice. You don't have to have someone playing the Overlord. Each monster every round will draw a card, and then that kind of dictates what they'll do. So that's pretty much it as far as the setup. We've got the board set up, ready to go. Is everybody's got their character picked out they want to play?
Yeah.
Do
I
we
think
want to
we
go
did.
through and talk about the character they picked?
Yeah, what
Or-
little we know
Yeah.
about them.
You want to start with yours, Joe?
Sure. I think I picked what is it's called Brute. These guys don't even have names, I think, right?
Right.
It's the Brute, and I think it's
Well,
as
they just have races.
yeah. I guess it's the Brute race.
Mhm.
Or
No,
is it
that's the
Inox?
class. It's the Inox.
Okay,
The-
Inox, and
Fine.
it's a Brute. It's probably the most straightforward melee fighting, also maybe some tanking style of class. I think I've never played it, but I think that's kind of what he's about. So hopefully a lot of heavy melee attacks and maybe some shielding, protecting allies kind of thing.
I think
Right.
they tend to get hired as like bodyguards and mercenaries and stuff.
Oh,
Is
okay,
their
really?
backstory? Yeah.
Deb's got the lore.
I know. I
Yeah.
read all the lore.
That's
All
awesome.
right. So we'll see how he does.
Yeah.
All right.
So some of your people are actually in the tavern. The Inox. There's some archers and some
Ah,
a shaman.
you guys.
Probably.
Yeah.
Hired by some unsavory types,
Yes. So
which
Debbie-
in the lore it says non-unsavory types. Double negative. I was like, oh boy.
non.
There are definitely
go.
some typos in the lore there.
Do you want to tell us about your character?
Yes, I am a tinkerer, and hold on. What's the thing? It's a quattril tinkerer.
Oh,
I've named mine Flexi just because I can.
nice.
And she is. I've made mine a girl. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But their race is known for being very proficient in basically everything. So whatever they specialize in, they're amazing at it because they have very tiny. They tend to have like an affinity for tinkering and inventing. Since their fingers are very long and thin, they can kind of get in there and tweak stuff and make cool gadgets and stuff. So
Nice.
we kind of pride ourselves on being jack of all trades, kind of like, oh shit, you need a sticky bomb? I got that. Oh, you need a hook gun? I got that. You need a net? Have that.
Nice.
Elixirs? Cool, I got you covered. And so one of the things that stuck out to me was if you ever get the opportunity, like you would be a fool basically to turn down the help of one of these tinkerers.
Yeah.
So
No kidding.
Do you have an idea of like what style of combat, or like what's its proficiency kind of?
well, it's more like a jack of all trades kind of thing. Like I have a little bit of healing, I have a little bit of damage, I have some boosting stuff. It's kind of like a bard a little bit, but
Oh, okay. Yeah.
sort of like my my Wendy deck, which is why I
Nice.
picked it. So I was like, oh, this is kind of my playstyle.
Nice.
So she's sort of fits that
Okay.
little like, let's help everybody with everything. So I'm like a support. I think I'm a support. So
Yeah. That's
Cool.
yeah.
And
so-
yours, Gabe?
Yeah, so I'm playing a scoundrel. I'm a human. And I believe, actually, one thing I was thinking of is there's actually character sheets that you fill out if you're playing the campaign. And I believe on the character sheets, that's where you would put your name, right? You get to create your own
Yeah.
name.
Which is why I made a name just in case
Yeah,
I
that's
needed it. So,
So we decided, or we were thinking not to put the character sheets since we'll just do this one mission. But it's a really cool
Yeah.
extra ability to kind of build up your character and have that sheet that you're keeping track of, just like a real RPG character sheet.
Yeah.
So I'm a human scoundrel. From what I was reading in the backstory, it looks like humans see themselves as an important part of every society, and of course, as a scoundrel, I'm sort of the most self-centered out of all of the different types of personalities. I believe that everything belongs to me. I can take whatever I want, and I don't have to walk across a bridge. I can stand on the railing if I want, like I'm in the picture.
Just like the guy in Arkham.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. A lot like that. Yeah. But yeah, so it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see, because I usually like playing ranged or magic or something, but it looks like I might be a little bit more of a close combat, hopefully sneak attack, and see how that works.
Cool.
Because I don't quite have the hit points that the tank does. I'm a little bit less sturdy, I think, but we'll see how that goes.
Did we want to go over the other 3 that we're not playing?
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
Okay.
Does anybody want to do that?
Yeah,
I can do
that.
one that I know.
Okay.
I can do the Mind Thief whenever that comes.
Oh, okay. So
What's
the
a Spellweaver?
spellweavers are orchids, and they're covered in crystals that grow on them as they meditate, which is pretty dope. So they are a race that meditate a lot, and they live for thousands of years. So
Wow.
they have very, very long lifespan. So they have a lot of time. So basically, basic shit that would affect us is like, eh. So when they decide to show up somewhere, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
And with the main campaign, I read a little bit about that, and apparently there have been an influx of orchids. So shit's gonna go down is basically what everyone's taking from that. They're like, oh, wait, there are a lot of these people around, and they only show up when stuff is gonna happen. So there are a lot of orchids around, and
Wow.
Ooh.
but they're pretty proficient in spell weaving.
That's cool.
So they're
Yeah.
probably the ones, when you talked about that infusing the battlefield, they're probably the ones setting that up.
Yeah.
Throwing the
Yeah.
elements and stuff.
They
Wow.
also have a lot of cards that consume that, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
So
Yeah, that's really cool. That's cool. Definitely some cool character artwork too. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. So Mind Thief.
Well, I'll let Deb do the lore when I'm done, but I know this one because the only other time I've attempted this game, I was this little Mind Thief. And it was pretty awesome. The only thing that I was disappointed in it was just Gabe and I played, and it seems like one of those classes that is just awesome, but you really need quite a few people out to help, because as you can see, his hit points are low.
Oh, it's like a support class?
Yeah,
Yeah.
gosh,
Or
I
a
think
combo, maybe?
the closest thing I could maybe liken it to, it seemed like, was a warlock. He did awesome stuff. Like, he basically made enemies attack each other. He made them forget he was on the board. He had some invisibility. He put a lot of debuffs, and then he would have combos where if people were debuffed, he would do extra damage to them. So if you like that kind of just general mess with you, mind trickery kind of thing, he's really cool for that stuff.
Yeah,
But I don't
so
know the lore.
He's actually a vermling. So vermlings will often be surrounded by a bunch of rats. And in order to control the rats, they develop telepathic powers.
Oh, awesome.
And so the more proficient they are at commanding a larger group, the better mind thief they are. So they actually tend to... There's another vermling that I think is like a beastmaster or something. So later down the line, you just become a little bit more proficient at
Wow.
bigger creatures. So I think that one has like bigger shit that they can summon. But
So he
this
really
is more
is
like a rat leader dude.
the warlock. He's got pets too.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would kind of liken it more to like a shadow priest in lore anyway. I don't know. Just because,
cool.
I don't know, warlock I associate more with like demons. He's like a hunter shadow priest hybrid kind of thing.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
So
Because living
like
creatures
animal
kind of
packs.
thing.
Yeah. Plus I really like warlocks. I was not interested in being a vermling.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. And then the Cragheart is
He's an infernal.
they're Savas, so that's their race, and they have this. They're basically like stone dews. They're elemental based society. So basically, they study all the elements, and then whichever element they become most proficient in will fill their chest cavity. They have like this glass covering on their chest that you can see the black part.
Oh, right.
Is typically covered in glass, and then whatever element they are most proficient in will fill their body, and you'll be able to see what kind of Cragheart they are, or what kind of Savas they are. Sorry.
Oh, wow.
But if they can't master any elements, they get shunned from their community and excommunicated, and their glass gets broken, so they may never hold an element. And that's when they become a Cragheart.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty tragic.
Yeah.
So this guy is like a super brute, but he does still hold affinity for elements. It's just that he is not as proficient as a Savas Elementalist, which is actually another class.
That's cool. It sounds similar to my childhood.
Yeah. Someone broke your chest cavity.
Yeah. I was never good at any of the elements.
I think so. He's probably like some kind of tank, a little bit like the brute, but maybe not quite as heavy on the attack damage.
Yeah, I think he's probably a little bit more element based.
Okay.
Just because he still can use elements, he's just not as great as an elementalist would be.
Right.
So.
Well,
that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the big thing is, of course, if you have the physical game, the big thing is, besides choosing a character, then you're going to take all of the level 1. You actually have a really big... Every character has a really big deck of cards, but you're only going to use the ones that have level 1, and it should be the exact number that matches your hand size. So all the level 1s that you have should equal your hand size. So for the Scoundrel, it's 9. For you, it's 10, right, Joe?
I've got 10. So.
And Deb, you've got 12, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's cool that each character is really customized as far as how much they have in their hand, probably, and you'll see obviously the abilities will be very different. You do have the option when you're building your hand at the start of the game. You can do this, and you can change this every time you start a different campaign or a different scenario within the campaign. There's a set of cards that have an X at the top. Some characters have like 3 or 4. I only have 3 for the Scoundrel. But the X cards are, once you learn the game and you've got the hang of it, you can actually switch out cards. So you're always limited by your hand size, but you can actually, and as you level up, you'll have even more choices of cards to put in your hand. So there's an element in between games where you do get to deck build and decide what's going to go in your hand for that scenario. And then you use it for that scenario, and then if you didn't like that, you can change it up and use a different setup for the next scenario. And if you know oh, go ahead.
I think it's really nice that they only give you, like, since you can only hold 9 cards, they only give you 9 level 1 cards. So you don't have like 12 possible level 1 cards and then the 3X cards, and you're trying to like fumble through that.
Yeah. It is.
So
nice,
I was worried about that for you guys. I was like, oh shit, maybe you guys have more deck building to do than I do because I can hold more. But no, that's a good way to handle that.
Yeah, and then it allows later on, once you're familiar with the game, that's when you can make it complicated and tactical and decide what you want to build your deck with. So yeah, it is a cool way to start. And I imagine you might even have some hints about what kind of scenario you're going into, and then that might also help you decide how you're going to customize your deck. It's cool. It's almost like you equip yourself with different items and things like that. So
I think the only other thing I wanted to say about this game, I don't know if this is quite the segue, is I think it combines like 2 of the most popular styles going on right now. You've got, I guess what I would call, if people are familiar with Descent, I'm going to use Descent because that's probably the most popular, which is just the table, miniatures, move around, fight monsters. You got action.
Dungeon crawler.
Right. Yeah. But then also the other popular style, which is what we've been doing on Table Flippin every week, which is the card, make a deck, customize it. And you've got both in this. It's awesome, but you're not also stuck with the deck. If you make something, as I often do, and you find out this sucked, you could start over the next scenario. So you deck building and dungeon crawling in the same. Pretty awesome.
Yeah. And the instructions tell you how to build your modifier deck. There's a set number of cards. I believe it is. Let me look here. I guess it doesn't really matter. It'll be a surprise. But there's a set number of of uh, of modifier cards that you put in your starter deck. And then what's cool is as you level up, as you gain abilities and perks, you'll actually be able to manipulate that as well. So there's a really cool manipulation even to the modifier deck to make certain things happen. So lots of things to think about, and in between scenarios, I think it'll get more and more complicated.
Yep.
But for now, I guess we're just starting with the very simple, easy scenario. I guess I could read the introduction, and then we can talk about where we're going to put our people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just another night. This is the first scenario of the Kickstarter campaign extras, I guess. The evening started off simply enough, with you having nothing better to do but join the rest of the cast-offs of society in the Sleeping Lion. Being a mercenary can sometimes be exciting, but mostly it's just boring. That's what strong drink is for. I'm moving in on the tavern. The basic truth is that there's nothing else you can do with your life. You're powerful, you can handle yourself in a fight, you know that much. And so you come to Gloomhaven, looking for sporadic work, guarding trade caravans, and loading cargo ships. So far, however, the most action you've seen has been in this rundown tavern. Pretty much every night, some disagreement between patrons turns bloody, and suddenly you're not bored anymore. Turns out tonight is no different. Some Inox bumps into a man's drink, and it turns out the man isn't too friendly toward Inox. Then, wouldn't you know, the Inox isn't too friendly toward humans, who aren't too friendly toward Inox. Things naturally devolve from there. The next thing you know, chairs are flying across the room, and no one even remembers how the fight began. It's every mercenary for themselves, and that boredom isn't going to alleviate itself. So the special rules in this campaign is we have to start on one of these spots, so we get to pick one of the purple spots to start in. The other factor in this game, or in this scenario, that's different and interesting is it looks like there's a ton of monsters on the board, but they will actually only fight whoever they're close to. So everyone is an enemy to everyone else. Obviously, we're friends, but the enemies are actually willing to fight, because it's a brawl, anyone that they're closest to. So that's part of the tactics, is trying to figure out how to not get hit by everyone. And then as far as the scenario goal, our objective for this scenario is to kill a number of enemies equal to 3 times the number of players. So we've got to kill 9 guys. And they have to die by... I guess they get knocked out, right? It's just a tavern brawl. So we have to knock out 9 guys by the end of the scenario. They have to actually get knocked out by us and not an enemy. So we have to do the knockout blow.
We can't just hide under a table.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
We're just all gonna go like over. What is the ping button? I don't know.
The tab.
Oh yeah, over here. Let's just like
Yeah.
all sit in this corner.
Yeah. Just fight anybody who gets close to us.
Yeah. That's funny. How many people are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wow. Okay, so we can only let 3 people die by other people, otherwise we fail.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is cool because it does scale. So if we were playing 4 players, there'd be a few more guys on the board, and the instructions tell you how to do that. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Hi, Gilly.
I love this scenario because you know what this is. This is basically just like every B action movie you've seen in your life where
it's like Star Wars.
We don't want to wait halfway through the movie to see what a badass Chuck Norris is. Let's put him in a bar and some girl's being harassed for no reason, and poor Chuck has to show off at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
He's just trying to have a drink and have a quiet night.
Yeah.
But no.
So the basic round of this game is actually pretty simple. However, we do have to do one thing. We still have to purchase items. So whenever you start the campaign, you always get 30 gold. So if everybody wants to grab some gold off the middle.
Oh boy, that's going to take a while, huh?
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough. We're going to have to copy them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll copy some. We'll make it rain.
Well, we just need 6 of each.
30 gold.
Oops.
And this is another slightly overwhelming part of the game, although if you kind of group cards together, it makes it a little easier. So when you're in town, this only happens before the start of the campaign. Obviously, you have a little money in your pocket to start off with, so you always go to town and buy a few cards. What's key about them is, just like any other type of equipment, you can have the bottom gray bar the bottom gray bar tells you what type of item it is, and of course you can only have one of that type. Although I think you can have 2 of these minor items that look like the little sacks, right? It's 2 minor items. Maybe.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe that's correct.
And then as far as the armor,
No,
Small
it depends.
item.
As far as I know, I think as a level 1, you can only have 1 of those.
oh, that's right.
pouch
It's
things.
kind of based on your level, isn't it? Something
Yeah.
like that? Yeah. So you can have 1 pouch item. The hand items are pretty common sense if you played games like this before. If there's 1 hand, that means it's a one-handed weapon. You can have 2 hands total of weapons, or you can take up one of these 2-handed weapons. As far as armor, you can have 1 helmet, 1 body, and 1 foot.
I think you can only have 1 armor as a level 1, though.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Whether foot, helmet, or body, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just 1 of all the armor, but I don't know.
Well, that makes sense because you really don't have enough money to buy, for example, feet, boots and armor and helmet. So I can see that.
But I don't know. I could be wrong on that. I thought that's what I heard, that you could have 1 armor and 1 of the pouch items, and then I don't know what the weapon rolls were.
So the other thing to pay attention to, besides the cost, which is in the right, is that there are certain symbols in the bottom right of the card that tell you how often you can use the item. So, for example, if it has the little white icon with the downward pointing, or the flaccid arrow pointing down, that means that it's an exhaustible item. So you exhaust it to use it, and then when you take a rest, you actually get to unexhaust it and reuse it again. Some cards will actually put... this is a really cool innovation, I think, is that if, for example, you put the hide armor on, it's a little bit unwieldy, so to account for that, they make you put 2 -1 cards in your modifier deck. So it's almost like it's a little bit harder to effectively fight in that armor, which is really cool. If a card has a white box with an X on it, that means that you can only use it once per scenario, its ability. And that's pretty much it. So you're either using it once per game or and then before a short rest, and then or just getting rid of it altogether after the scenario.
Okay.
And there's 1 lonely item here that you can use for the whole game. If there's no symbols, then you can use it as much as you want. So now we have to decide.
30 gold worth of... And what's out is out, so if we all want something, we may have to fight over it a little bit, huh?
Yeah, it's a possibility. The other thing that's interesting is that there are other item cards. You can only play with the 1 through 14 at the start of the campaign.
Okay. So more items to come as you play the campaign. Probably
Right.
better items. Cool.
Right.
Well, does anyone mind? I think I'm going to buy a shield. I kind of like the idea of negating an attack.
Yeah, I don't think that's very roguish, so
I'll take 1 of those.
I'll probably be sitting out shield-wise.
Shield cost me 20. It's all my money.
I have a feeling I'm not going to be using a bow either. I'm betting I'm not a big range attack person.
You don't think? That's kind of roguish.
Yeah, I mean, you could be a rogue archer. I have a feeling, looking at my abilities, I see a lot of melee.
Yeah.
Very little range. Oh, I guess I've got 2. Looks like maybe 2 or 3 cards.
I think I'm going to... There's 1 for everyone. I'm going to buy a healing potion.
Yeah.
And that's all mine.
I can't zoom in the board.
The mouse.
All I can do is get out farther. It won't let me go back in.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
The mouse scroll's
You
not
can't
working.
see shit.
Maybe drop out and come back in? Or
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that.
I'm trying to remember what the options are to switch your camera control. Might be a camera.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything's being really, really awkward for me.
The nice thing about the poison daggers, they do seem very roguish. When I attack, so for one attack I can poison someone.
Poison's very good. I think that's the one where if someone's poisoned, anybody who attacks them does extra damage. That's how poison works in this game, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's kind of combo based as well, a little bit.
Yeah, poison's very cool.
It'd be cool to move a lot too as a rogue, I bet.
You probably already are good at that, right?
Yeah, I bet I have pretty good movement. Movement's kind of based on the cards that you play as well. Just FYI. But we'll kind of see how that works in a little bit.
Okay.
I could add flight to my movement.
Flight?
Oh, yeah, that'll help you with the tables.
Or I guess not flight, it's just the jump.
Jumping,
I get to jump over things, yeah. Yeah, it would be kind of nice. You probably see on some of the cards it says things like advantage and disadvantage. That's really cool. If you have advantage, you get to draw 2 modifier cards when you attack instead of just 1. And you get to pick the best one. If you have disadvantage, it's the opposite. You'd pick 2 and you have to choose the worst one. So that's kind of a cool ability to have. Well, advantage is a cool ability to have, but I'm thinking I'm tempted to take these winged shoes because of the number of obstacles in the bar that I could jump over.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to do it. So I'm going to take the winged shoes. Now, does equipment go in the active slot?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Up
you
top.
would place it above your character sheet.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
This scenario looks like moving's a pretty high priority thing.
Yeah. And then I might be like Joe and do the healing potion. Although the stamina potion is kind of cool too. It's like a free retrieval of some discarded cards. Two of your discarded cards, man. I'll stick with healing as a low level. So that takes my other 10.
Oh, okay. So you can have one of the helm, that one of each of the different types of armor and weapons, but you can have a number of the potions equal to half their level rounded up.
Oh, okay. So that's why
it's
just
one.
One. Okay.
One, yeah.
That's cool. All right.
I have no idea what I want.
I know it's hard to decide.
No, it's especially hard because I don't really know too much about what I'm going to do. It looks like I'm completely 100% ranged. So I should probably just take the bow.
Yeah, that's true.
But how many people have shield values?
On
That's
the
the...
So there's one guy here, the bandit guard.
But are we supposed to know that?
I think we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
I think you can see all the monster, what's laid out.
Although I will say there are some AI cards that will come out that give them extra shields too. So that could be a big advantage depending on the luck of the draw. But it is, yeah, it does kind of suck that it's just one guy that has shields.
Get this.
Oh yeah, and it's only shield 1. Okay,
Yeah.
well that's probably not worth it. I'm tempted to get that. What are these goggles?
Those seem like Tinkerer Dream.
Hell yeah! Oh,
And
I'm gonna get those.
Yeah,
It's all
Advantage
30,
seems
but
cool.
whatever. Yeah, advantage.
Advantage is pretty cool for people watching. When you get an advantage in this game, instead of rolling
Oh.
die in this game to determine like, oh, well, how well's my attack do? You draw cards and they can be random. But advantage basically means you get to draw 2 and pick the best one, I think, when you get an advantage. So those
Oh, boy.
goggles Deb purchased she can tap them to gain an advantage on a certain attack.
Do I have sticky keys on or something?
Yeah. You can just delete them. I think it's an infinite pile, right? Oh, it's not.
Yeah, it's not. But I made some more. I can make some more copies anytime if anybody needs any.
Oh, okay. I'll just delete those then. Every time I move something, it zooms me all the way back out. So I don't know.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Table Flippin. He's just so
Hey.
great. He's a
Table
real
Flippin'.
MVP.
All right.
All right. So I think-
Items purchased.
yeah, so everybody's got to sit on that. So now that's really pretty much the only setup. You got to make sure the enemies also have their own modifier deck that they'll use when they're attacking, and then each enemy, and then you'll shuffle that as well as the guard and archer decks based on each enemy has their own AI deck, which is kind of cool. We do have to shuffle this brick card with the bricks. What is this called again? This deck of cards?
The battle goals,
Yeah, battle goals.
something like that.
So each one of us is going to pick 2 battle goals, or I guess we draw 2 battle goals, and then we pick out of those 2 one that we want to focus on for this scenario. Although we have to keep it secret. I guess, do you guys want to not talk about it and keep it secret and then talk about it at the end of the game, or do you
Sure.
want to just make it public?
We can keep it secret and reveal it
Yeah.
at the end.
Okay. So I'll draw 2, and then you pick one, and then the others get discarded back into the deck.
Drawing 2.
I guess I'll put them in my hand, so.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
Okay. Got
What are
mine.
these barrels on the board? They're just obstacles?
Yeah.
Okay, well. One of mine's not even possible.
Maybe pick the other one?
Yeah, I know. It just sucks because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but whatever. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay. So we've all got a secret battle goal, and had we been playing the campaign, the check marks that are on the card, if you complete your goal, you get the number of check marks on the card, and those can be used to buy perks, I think, right?
Right. And the perks are cool because they do something different than when you level up. So you're kind of keeping track of lots of objectives and achievements and level up items. So there's lots of customization. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Lots of stuff.
So now at this point, we've got to decide our entry point. Every scenario and will come with a map that shows you where the possible points are for where your characters can start. We can pick any of these, and I've kind of marked them on the map here with these little purple Smarties that look delicious. So we can replace our characters with any of them that you guys want to.
Okay. I figure since I'm tanky, I know the yellow board, the yellow circled guys
Guard
are
are those elites?
elites.
Yeah, the yellow
Oh,
guys are
geez.
elites.
So I can try and be around the most elites since I'm supposedly the tank. So which
Okay.
spot, Gabe, was easier for you think? Between the two there.
I can take this one if you don't mind because I have a feeling I can get around this table pretty easily.
Okay. And I'll try to draw fire.
That and this elite bandit should probably attack this Enoch archer,
Yeah.
I'd imagine.
I just got to get away from these guards.
Okay.
Take
All
this off.
right.
Looking good.
All right.
So I'll change my color to my player color. Wait, it's easier to... For the viewers at home.
There
So
we go.
I'm up here, Joe's up here, Deb's down here. Looks like that's where
Oh,
we're
do you want me
starting.
to be purple?
Oh, no, you don't have to. I don't know. I
Oh,
was
no,
just messing
I'm
around.
down to be purple.
There you go.
It's more pink, but that's okay.
Yeah, the colors on the tokens are kind of glossy and look weird, but... All right, so each round is actually pretty simple. Once you get all this complicated setup done, the round's procedure is pretty simple. Each of us is going to pick 2 cards from our hands and play them face down. And then after we've all done that, we draw face up 1 card for all of the AI enemies. And then that's going to let us know what they're doing this round. And we can know that before we start the round so that we can kind of plan and figure out what we're going to do. Then
Would we be able to rotate the monster
that's
things?
a good idea. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, it's
Oh.
like a
Multi-layered.
What are you doing? Oh, I see.
Oh, this might have been more complicated than...
Yeah, I guess I'll have to remember to do that next. I'll do that next time.
Is the bottom card locked or maybe?
No,
or...
I can unlock both of them. Let's see. If you guys want to do that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah, I think there are 2 pieces to unlock. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Oh, so the round selection, we draw 2 cards face down. Then we draw a card from the AI deck, 1 for each type of AI creature. So, for example, even though there's 2 Inex guards, or I'm sorry, even though there's an Inex guard and a Bandit guard, you actually only have 1 guard deck, and in this scenario they both follow that AI pattern. Same with the archers. There's Inex archers and Bandit archers. They'll both follow the same AI that comes up in the deck. Then each card has, as you can see on my card, each card in the middle of our cards has an initiative number, and you can always tell it's an initiative number because it's got a little arrow on top. And the monsters have a similar initiative number on them. The initiative that is the lowest number gets to go first. So if it happens to be that the bandits, that the archers have the lowest number, they get to go first. If we have the lowest number, if one of us does, we get to go first. So that's kind of a cool way of determining initiative. You don't really know what the initiative is going to be, but if you want to go first, you should pick a card that is going to be lowest. And initiative is based on the first card you place down, or as we'll do it here, the left card. So whatever I place on the left is going to be my leading card, which means that's going to be my initiative. And then the other card is just going to be the other ability I'm going to do. After we play cards, everybody flips over cards so we know what everybody has and what the initiative is. And then we each go in initiative order until we're done. And then there's a cleanup phase. And then we start all over again until a mission has been won or lost.
Okay. Oh boy, this was
I know, it's so
way more complicated than I thought.
I know, it's so annoying.
I wish that I could get the bottom cards rotating without...
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy, it's...
Okay, just getting these. So hopefully I'm transferring these right.
One other thing I'll say while you guys are finishing up is the reason why you pick 2 cards is because you're going to do the top ability on one and the bottom ability on the other. And so, for example, if I play Backstab, I'm going to decide later on when the card's flipped over, I then get to decide which card I'm going to use the top ability on and which card I'm going to use the bottom. It doesn't matter which order I played them in. I can pick top on one, bottom on the other, or bottom on one, top on the other. However you want to do it. And you can do them in any order. If you want to do the bottom move first and then the top move, or vice versa. It's up to you. So this is what you get to choose, which is really cool. So you have 9 choices at the beginning of the game, but you're only going to choose 2 cards. And then at that point, you only have 4 choices. And depending on... I guess you really only have 2 choices, right? Because once you pick the top, then only the bottom is available. So that's really what you have to decide, which top and which bottom action you're going to do.
And then every card has a default if you don't want to use either. It has the 2 and 2, right?
Yeah, on the very left, as you can see on my card, my Venom Shiv card here, you've got the little icons on the left side in the center. You can always do the top action, attack 2, and move 2 on the bottom. And then, of course, we'll kind of explain what all these little symbols are. They activate abilities, and if you see the little star here with the number in it, you're actually going to get XP for activating that ability, which is crazy because instead of most games where you get XP based on your kills, you actually get XP in this game based on your ability plays. So it's kind of a really cool innovation too.
You got to earn your experience, not
Exactly.
just slaughter someone and everybody gets a little.
Yeah.
Thanks. So, well, I think we're totally ready. Basically, the scenario is a bar fight. We've got to kill 9 guys by our own hand to win.
But
we've
they'll
got our
also
guys
fight each
set.
other. If
They'll
they're
fight each
closest.
other. Basically, the enemies in this game have very good system of their own AI, and yeah, they generally move to the nearest target, try to attack the easiest target. Will generally do the worst thing they can. So we're all set, I think, to do. We can take a small break here, right? And
Yeah,
come back.
we'll go ahead and
Probably a
take a
good
break.
idea.
Yeah.
We can
Okay.
make sure all these numbers are right.
Yeah. Take care of all
Okay.
that, and then we'll be ready to go.
All right, we come back. We're finally starting. We're fighting.
Exactly. All right, we'll see you guys back in just a second.
Okay.